I went to Walmart today, and I was there for literally 5 minutes. When I came out, there was a state trooper writing a parking ticket for being in a handicap spot. So I went up to him and said, "Come on, buddy, how about giving a guy a break?" He ignored me and continued writing the ticket. So I called him a pencil-necked cop. He glared at me and started writing another ticket for worn tires. So I then asked him if his psychiatrist makes him lie face down on the couch because he's so ugly. He finished the second ticket and put it on the windshield with the first. Then he started writing a third ticket. This went on until he had placed 5 tickets on the windshield. The more I insulted him, the more tickets he wrote. I didn't care. My car was parked around the corner. 3 professors, a physicist, a chemist, and a statistician, are called in to see their dean. Just as they arrive, the dean is called out of his office, leaving the 3 professors there. The professors see with alarm that there is a fire in the wastebasket. The physicist says, "I know what to do. We must cool down the materials until their temperature is lower than the ignition temperature, and then the fire will go out." The chemist says, No, I know what to do. We must cut off the supply of oxygen so that the fire will go out due to lack of one of the reactants." While the physicist and chemist debate what course to take, they both are alarmed to see the statistician running around the room, starting other fires. They both scream, "What are you doing?" To which the statistician replies, "Trying to get an adequate sample size." While in the playground with his friend, little Johnny noticed that Jimmy was wearing a brand new, shiny watch. "Did you get that for your birthday?" asked little Johnny. "Nope," replied Jimmy. "Well, did you get it for Christmas then?" Again, Jimmy says, "Nope. You didn't steal it, did you?" asked little Johnny. "No," said Jimmy. "I went into Mom and Dad's bedroom the other night when they were doing the nasty. Dad gave me his watch to get rid of me." Little Johnny was extremely impressed with this idea and extremely jealous of Jimmy's new watch. He vowed to get one for himself. That night, he waited outside his parents' bedroom until he heard the unmistakable noises of love-making. Just then, he swung the door wide open and boldly strode into the bedroom. His father, caught in mid-stroke, turned and said angrily, "What do you want now?" "I want to watch," Johnny replied. Without missing a stroke, his father said, "Fine. Stand in the corner and watch, but keep quiet." A bakery owner hires a young female clerk who likes to wear very short skirts and thong panties. One day, a young man enters the store, glances at the clerk and at the loaves of bread behind the counter. Noticing her short skirt and the location of the raisin bread, he has a brilliant idea. "I'd like some raisin bread, please," the man says. The clerk nods and climbs up a ladder to reach the raisin bread located on the very top shelf. The man standing almost directly beneath her is provided with an excellent view, just as he thought. When she descends the ladder, he decides that he had better get 2 loaves as he is having company for dinner. As the clerk retrieves the second loaf of bread, one of the other male customers notices what's going on and requests his own loaf of raisin bread. After many trips, she is tired and irritated and begins to wonder why the unusual interest in the raisin bread. Atop the ladder one more time, she looks down and glares at the men standing below. Then, she notices an elderly man standing amongst the crowd. Thinking that she can save herself a trip, she yells at the elderly man, "Is it raising for you too?" "No," stammers the old man, "but it's quivering a little." Billy was excited about his first day at school. So excited, in fact, that only a few minutes after class started, he realized that he desperately needed to go to the bathroom. So Billy raised his hand politely to ask if he could be excused. Of course, the teacher said yes, but asked Billy to be quick. 5 minutes later, Billy returned, looking more desperate and embarrassed. "I can't find it," he admitted. The teacher sat Billy down and drew him a little diagram of where he should go and asked him if he would be able to find it now. Billy looked at the diagram, said yes, and went on his way. A short while later, he returned to the classroom and said to the teacher, "I still can't find it." Frustrated, the teacher asked Tommy, a boy who had been at the school for a while, to help Billy find the bathroom. So Tommy and Billy left the classroom together, and 5 minutes later they both returned and sat down at their seats. The teacher asked Tommy, "Well, did you find it?" Tommy was quick with his reply. Oh, sure, he just had his boxer shorts on backwards. A couple want to have children, but the wife can't get pregnant, so they go to see a priest for advice. The priest tells them they came at the right time since his superior just sent him to Rome for 10 years and he's leaving tomorrow. As soon as I get there, I'll immediately light a candle for you, he promises. Time passes and the priest returns to the little town after 10 years. The first thing he does is visit the couple's home. He can hear a crazy loud noise when he knocks on the door. The wife opens the door. 3 little children are on her arms, a couple of them hiding under her skirt, and others are behind her playing around. The priest counts as many as 10 of them. "Well, this is quite a pleasant surprise," exclaims the priest. "It seems like God listened to my prayer, but where is your dear husband?" "My husband traveled to Rome," says the wife with a tired look on her face. "To Rome? Why on earth would he go to Rome? To blow out that bloody candle you lit." Morris was going through an old drawer, and he discovered a ticket for the cobbler's shop dated about 40 years ago. He remembered having brought in his spare loafers to get new heels so many years ago, and somehow he had forgotten all about them. I wonder if old Gelbstein still has his shop. It's been so long since I was even in that part of the city. So Morris goes down there, and to his amazement, Gelbstein's shoe repair is still there, and through the window he actually sees old Mr. Gelbstein behind the counter. He was sure that the shoes would be long gone, but it wouldn't hurt to ask, so he walked into the shop and greeted the old man and showed him the 40-year-old ticket. "You wouldn't by any chance still have these shoes, would you?" Gelbstein took the ticket, said, "Let me check," and toddled off into the back. Then he called out, "Here they are!" Man, this guy is amazing, thought Morris. Gelbstein comes back out and gets behind the counter. He hands back the ticket to Morris and tells him they'll be ready on Tuesday. A nun goes to the priest and says, "Father, there's a hole in the roof of your church." "Thank you for telling me," he replies, "but you've been here for years. It's our church." The next day, the nun goes to the priest and says, "Father, there's a broken window in our church." He thanks her again and calls for a repairman. The following day, the priest is preparing for a visit from the local bishop. As he is weeding the gardens, he cuts his hand. Calling the nun over, he says, "There's a bottle of rubbing alcohol in my quarters somewhere. Could you fetch it for me?" The nun nods and goes looking for it. It is as the priest is greeting the bishop that she returns from the church and loudly announces, "Father, don't worry about the weed. The alcohol was under our bed." A nun and a priest are playing golf. The priest is teeing off at the first hole. The ball flies across the fairway towards the green but lands meters from the hole. "Oh, God, damn it! I missed!" The nun scolds the priest. "Father, you ought to be careful. You of all people should know that if you continue to blaspheme like that, surely the Lord will strike you down with lightning." At the green, again the priest takes his shot, but the ball rolls past the hole, coming to a stop just a few inches away from it. "Oh, God damn it, I missed again." Again the nun warns him. "Father, watch your language. Take the Lord's name in vain again, and surely he will strike you down with lightning." The priest takes his putter and puts the ball towards the hole in what should be an incredibly easy shot. Unfortunately, the ball skims the side of the hole and overshoots, coming to rest just next to it. "Oh, God damn it! How could I miss that?" exclaims the priest. Suddenly, there's a huge thunderclap and bright flash of lightning, and the priest finds himself standing all alone on the golf course. And then a voice booms from above. "Oh, God damn it! I missed!" An old drunk is on his way into a bar when a nun standing outside the bar suddenly speaks to him. "Your drinking is the easy road to evil and damnation. Drink will pollute your body and soul. Give up the foul spirits and live a better life." The drunk looks at her and asks, "How do you know that drinking is so bad for you?" The nun looks puzzled and shrugs. The drunk says, "Have you ever even tried a drink?" The nun admits she hasn't, so the drunk tells her, "Listen, I'll go into the bar and order myself a drink, and I'll get one for you too. I'll bring it out here and you can taste it yourself and see that alcohol is nothing bad." The nun reluctantly agrees, but says, I don't want anybody out here getting the wrong idea about me, so would you mind bringing me the drink in a paper cup? The drunk agrees to this and goes inside. At the bar, he tells the bartender, "Give me a double shot of whiskey and a second half shot in a paper cup." The bartender groans and says, "Is that bloody nun out there again?" Air Force One crashed in the middle of rural America. Panic-stricken, the local sheriff mobilized and descended on the farm in force. When they got there, the disaster was clear. The aircraft was totally destroyed, with only a burned hull left smoldering in a tree line that bordered a farm. The sheriff and his men entered the smoking mess, but did not find the remains of anyone, including the president. They spotted a lone farmer plowing a field not too far away, as if nothing at all had happened. They hurried over to the man's tractor. "Hank!" the sheriff yelled, panting and out of breath. "Did you see this terrible accident happen?" "Yup, sure did." The farmer mumbled unconcernedly, cutting off his motor. "Do you realize that is the airplane of the President of the United States?" "Yup." "Were there any survivors?" "Nope, they're all killed straight out." The farmer answered. "I buried them all myself. Took me most of the morning." "President is dead," the sheriff shouted. "Well," the farmer grumbled, restarting his tractor, "he kept saying he wasn't. But you know what a liar he is." A priest was being honored at his retirement dinner after 25 years in the parish. A leading local politician and member of the congregation was chosen to make the presentation and give a little speech at the dinner. He was delayed, so the priest decided to say his own few words while they waited. "I got my first impression of the parish from the first confession I heard here. I thought I had been assigned to a terrible place. The very first person who entered my confessional told me he had stolen a television set and, when questioned by the police, was able to lie his way out of it. He had stolen money from his parents, embezzled from his employer, had an affair with his boss's wife, taken illegal drugs, and given VD to his sister. I was appalled. But as the days went on, I knew that my people were not all like that, and I had indeed come to a fine parish full of good and loving people." Just as the priest finished his talk, the politician arrived, full of apologies for being late. He immediately began to make the presentation and gave his talk. "I'll never forget the first day our parish priest arrived," said the politician. "In fact, I had the honor of being the first one to go to him in confession." Towards the end of a round of golf, Dave hit his ball into the woods and found it in a patch of pretty yellow buttercups. Trying to get his ball back in play, he ended up thrashing just about every buttercup in the patch. All of a sudden, poof! In a flash and puff of smoke, a little old woman appeared. She said, "I'm Mother Nature. Do you know how long it took me to make those buttercups? Just for doing what you have done, you won't have any butter for your popcorn for the rest of your life. Better still, you won't have any butter for your toast for the rest of your life. As a matter of fact, you'll never have any butter for anything for the rest of your life." Then, poof! She was gone. After Dave recovered from the shock, he hollered for his friend, "Fred, where are you?" Fred yells back, "I'm over here in the Pussy Willows." Dave shouts back, "Don't swing, Fred! For the love of God, don't swing!" An Irish painter by the name of Murphy, while not a brilliant scholar, was a gifted portrait artist. Over a short number of years, his fame grew, and soon people from all over Ireland were coming to the town of Doolin in County Clare to get him to paint their likenesses. One day, a beautiful young Englishwoman arrived at his house in a stretch limo and asked if he would paint her in the nude. This being the first time anyone had made such a request, he was a bit perturbed, particularly when the woman told him that money was no object. In fact, she was willing to pay up to £10,000. Not wanting to get into any marital strife, he asked her to wait while he went into the house to confer with Mary, his wife. In a few minutes, he returned. "'Twould be my pleasure to paint your portrait, missus," he said. "The wife says it's okay. I'll paint you in the nude, all right, but I have to at least leave my socks on, so I have a place to wipe my paintbrush." A daughter calls her mother and says, "I'm divorcing Nathan. All he wants is and more sex. My vagina now the size of a 50-cent piece, when it used to be the size of a 5-cent piece. Her mother says, "You are married to a multi-millionaire. You live in a mansion. You drive a Ferrari. You get all the money. You take 6 vacations a year, and you want to throw all that away for 45 cents?" Upon arriving home, a husband was met at the door by his sobbing wife. Tearfully, she explained, "It's the pharmacist. He insulted me terribly this morning on the phone." Immediately, the husband drove downtown to confront the pharmacist and demand an apology. Before he could say more than a few words, the druggist told him, "Now, just a minute. Please listen to my side of it. This morning the alarm failed to go off, so I was late getting up. I went without breakfast and hurried out to the car, just to realize that I locked the house with both house and car keys inside. I had to break a window to get my keys. Then, driving a little too fast, I got a speeding ticket. Later, about 3 blocks from the store, I had a flat tire. When I got to the store, there was a bunch of people waiting for me to open up. I opened and started waiting on these people, and all the time the darn phone was ringing off the hook." He continued, "Then I had to break a roll of nickels against the cash register drawer to make change, and they spilled all over the floor. I got down on my hands and knees to pick up the nickels. The phone was still ringing. When I came up, I cracked my head on the open cash drawer, which made me stagger back against a showcase with a bunch of perfume bottles on it. All of them hit the floor and broke. Meanwhile, the phone is still ringing with no let-up, and I finally get to answer it. It was your wife. She wanted to know how to use a rectal thermometer. And honest, mister, all I did was tell her." An old lady went to a bank intending to withdraw money. The old lady handed her bank card to a bank teller and said, "I would like to withdraw $500. The female teller told her, "For withdrawals less than $5,000, please use the ATM." The old lady then asked, "Why?" The teller irritably told her, "These are rules. Please leave if there is no other matter. There is a queue behind you." She then returned the card to the old lady. The old lady remained silent, but she returned the card to the teller and said, "Please help me withdraw all the money I have." The teller was astonished when she checked the account balance. She nodded her head, leaned down, and said to the old lady, "My apologies, Granny. You have $3.5 million in your account, and our bank does not have so much cash currently. Could you make an appointment and come again tomorrow?" The old lady then asked, "How much am I able to withdraw now?" The teller told her, "Any amount up to $300,000. The old lady then told the teller that she wanted to withdraw $300,000 from her account. The teller did so quickly and handed it to the old lady respectfully. The old lady kept $500 in her bag and asked the teller to deposit the balance of $299,500 back into her account. 3 engineers and 3 lawyers were going to a convention. At the train station to the convention, one engineer said, "We can get on the train with only 1 ticket." The other group laughed, but did not interject when the first group bought the ticket. When the conductor went around on the train for the tickets, the engineers all walked into the restroom. The conductor walked over, knocked on the door, and a single arm shot out holding the ticket, which the engineer took. The engineers walked back to their seat after with no further problems. The other group applauded their idea. On the way back from the convention, the lawyers announced how they were going to try the same trick as the first. "In that case," one engineer started, "we will travel with no ticket at all." The lawyers laughed at the engineers, but did not refuse their idea. On the train back, the conductor walked around to collect tickets, and the lawyers giggled to themselves as they got up and entered the restroom. Waiting a moment, the engineers all got up, walked to the lawyer's restroom, and knocked on the door, and an arm shot out with the ticket. The engineers took it and entered the next restroom over. A professional photographer is assigned to cover some of the wildfires that have been rampaging across a national park. His editor tells him to try to get some close-ups of the firefighters that are battling the wildfires. When he gets to the forest, the photographer discovers thick smoke, which will make it impossible for him to get any decent shots. So he decides to rent an airplane and do some aerial photography. He gets permission from his editor and is told to report at a nearby airport, where a small aircraft will be on the tarmac waiting for him. Upon arrival at the airport, he sees a plane warming up, so he jumps in with his bag of equipment and says, "Let's go." In no time at all, the pilot is taxiing down the runway, and the plane heads into the sky. "What I'd like you to do," says the photographer to the pilot, "is fly over the national park where the wildfire is and get as close to the ground as you dare to go, making a few low passes so I can take some photos." "Why?" asks the pilot. "Isn't it obvious?" says the man. "I'm a photographer, and photographers take photos." The pilot is completely silent for a moment. Finally, he stammers, "You mean you're not the flight instructor?" Several days ago, as I left the Bunnings in Midland to walk out to my ute and was reaching into my pocket for my car keys, I got that sick feeling when I didn't find them there. I desperately gave myself a personal pat-down. Other pockets, shirt pocket, not there. Turned around real fast and trotted back into Bunnings. I did a quick search in the seats where I'd been sitting. Nothing. I asked everybody if they had seen my keys. Nope. Then it hit me. I must have left them in the ute. Frantically, I headed for the parking lot outside Bunnings. My wife, Robin, has scolded me 1,000 times for leaving the keys in the ignition. My theory is the ignition is the best place not to lose them. Her theory is that the car will be stolen if I do that. As I burst through the doors of Bunnings and out into the parking lot, I came to a terrifying conclusion. Her theory was right. The parking lot was empty. No ute. I immediately called the police. I gave them my location and confessed that I had left my keys in the ute and that it had been stolen. Then I made the most difficult call of all. "Honey," I stammered. I always call her honey in times like these. "I left my keys in the ute and it has been stolen." There was a period of silence. I thought the call had been dropped, but then I heard Robin's voice. "John," she barked, "I dropped you off at Bunnings on my way to the grocery store." Now it was my time to be silent. Embarrassed, I said, "Well, would you come and get me?" Robin retorted, "I will, as soon as I convince these coppers I have not stolen your ute." A guy was standing in a bar when a stranger walks in. After a while, they get to talking, and at about 10:30 p.m., the second guy says, "Oh, well, I better get home. My wife doesn't like me to stay out too late at night." The first guy replies, "I'll help you out of this. Just do what I say. Go home, sneak into the bedroom, pull back the covers, get down between her legs, then lick, lick, and lick for about 20 minutes, and there will be no complaints in the morning." The guy agrees to try that and continues drinking with him for 2 more hours before heading home to give it a try. When he got home, the house was pitch black. He sneaks upstairs into the bedroom, pulls back the covers, and proceeds to lick for 20 minutes. The bed was like a swamp, so he decided to wash his face. As he walked into the bathroom, his wife was sitting on the toilet. Seeing her, he screamed, "What the hell are you doing in here?" "Quiet," she exclaimed. "You'll wake my mother." A virile, middle-aged Italian gentleman named Luigi was relaxing at his favorite bar in Rome when he managed to attract a spectacular young blonde woman. Things progressed to the point where he invited her back to his apartment, and after some small talk, they retired to his bedroom where he rattled her senseless. After a pleasant interlude, he asked with a smile, "So, are you finished?" She paused for a second, frowned, and replied, "No." Surprised, Luigi reached for her, and the rattling resumed. This time she thrashed about wildly, and there were screams of passion. The sex finally ends, and again Luigi smiles and asks, "You finish?" Again, after a short pause, she returns his smile, cuddles closer to him, and softly says, "No." Stunned but damned if he was going to leave this woman unsatisfied, Luigi reaches for the woman yet again. Using the last of his strength, he barely manages it, but they end together screaming, bucking, clawing, and ripping the bedsheets. Exhausted, Luigi falls onto his back, gasping. Barely able to turn his head, he looks into her eyes, smiles proudly, and asks again, "You finish?" Barely able to speak, the beautiful blonde whispers in his ear, "No, I'm Norwegian." A professor started his class on a very serious topic. The moment he turned towards the blackboard, one of the students whistled. He turned, looked at the class, and asked the whistler's name. No one answered. The professor peacefully kept the pen in his pocket, saying, "Lecture ends here. I'll tell you a story to utilize the remaining time. Everyone became interested. Last night I tried hard to sleep, but it was miles away from my eyes, so I thought I'd better get petrol in my car, which will save my time next morning and might induce sleep. After having my tank full, I started roaming in that area, enjoying the peace of a traffic-free ride. Suddenly, on the corner, I saw a girl who was as young and beautiful as the clothes she was wearing. Must have been returning from a party. Out of courtesy, I turned my car towards her and asked if I may be of any help. She asked me if I could drop her at her home. She'd be very obliged, to which I agreed. She sat in the front seat with me. We started talking, and to my amazement, she was very intelligent and had control over many topics that many youngsters don't. When we reached her address, she admitted my courteous nature and behavior and accepted that she had fallen in love with me. I also admired her intelligence and beauty and admitted that I've also started liking her. I told her about my job as a professor in the university. The girl asked for my number, which I gave her willingly. Then she asked me a favor, which I couldn't have denied naturally. She said that her brother is a student in the same university and asked me to take care of him since we'll be in a long relationship now. I asked the name of the student. She said that I'll recognize him with one of his very prominent quality. He whistles a lot. All eyes in the classroom turned towards the boy who had whistled. The professor said, I didn't buy my Ph.D. in psychology. I earned it. Oh yeah, come out, you stupid fool. Once there was a dragon slayer named Nick. Nick was a wealthy man due to the fact that there were many dragons around the kingdom that required killing. The king of the land used to pay a great price for every dragon killed, but Nick had a deep secret. He had a massive desire to sleep with the queen, even if it was just for a night. One day, while getting drunk, he revealed his inner desire to his friend Horace. Now, Horace was the king's most trusted minister, and all he desired was gold. So he made a deal with Nick, saying that he would give Nick an opportunity to sleep with the queen, and in return he wanted 1,000 gold coins. Nick agreed to this deal. The next day, while the queen was taking a bath, Horace went to the room where the queen's clothes were laid out and put some itching powder in her bra. The queen started itching and wailing in agony, and the king promised a hefty reward to any man who can put an end to the pain. Now Horace had given Nick the antidote and told him to put it on his tongue and lick away. Nick showed up in the king's court and said that he could cure her if he had a few hours alone with her. The king had no other choice but to agree. Nick had his fun and the queen was healed. The king rewarded Nick quite handsomely and sent him on his way. The next day, Horace showed up at Nick's doorstep demanding the gold coins he was promised, but Nick wasn't willing to pay up, saying that Horace could do nothing or else both of them would be in serious trouble. Horace warned Nick of dire consequences, but to no avail. The next day, while the king was taking a bath, Horace placed some itching powder in the king's underwear. A man was sick and tired of going to work every day while his wife stayed home. He wanted her to see what he went through, so he prayed. Dear Lord, I go to work every day and put in 8 hours while my wife merely stays at home. I want her to know what I go through, so please allow her body to switch with mine for a day. God, in his infinite wisdom, granted the man's wish. The next morning, sure enough, the man awoke as a woman. He arose, cooked breakfast for his mate, awakened the kids, set out their school clothes, fed them breakfast, packed their lunches, drove them to school, came home and picked up the dry cleaning, stopped at the bank to make a deposit, went grocery shopping, then drove home to put away the groceries, paid the bills, and balanced the checkbook. He cleaned the cat's litter box and bathed the dogs. Then it was already 1 p.m., and he hurried to make the beds, do the laundry, vacuum, dust, and sweep and mop the kitchen floor, ran to the school to pick up the kids, and got into an argument with them on the way home. Set out cookies and milk and got the kids organized to do their homework, then set up the ironing board and watched TV while he did the ironing. At 4:30, he began peeling potatoes and washing vegetables for salad, breaded the pork chops, and snapped fresh beans for supper. After supper, he cleaned the kitchen, ran the dishwasher, folded laundry, bathed the kids, and put them to bed. At 9 p.m., he was exhausted, and though his daily chores weren't finished, he went to bed, where he was expected to make love. which he managed to get through without complaint. The next morning, he awoke and immediately knelt by the bed and said, "Lord, I don't know what I was thinking. I was so wrong to envy my wife's being able to stay home all day. Please, oh please, let us trade back." The Lord, in his infinite wisdom, replied, "My son, I feel you have learned your lesson, and I will be happy to change things back to the way they were. You'll just have to wait 9 months, though. You got pregnant last night."